Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to focus on how to handle frames and switching between frames using CITS. So frames are a certain level of encapsulation within an HTML DOM, which holds different web elements. Now, in order to interact with certain web elements, you first have to enter into that frame, and then you would be able to interact with that web element using XPath, CSS, or any other attribute. Um, in this example, we see there are four panes or four frames on the screen: the left, middle, right, and bottom. So if I right click and inspect on this one, you see right at the very beginning, there is a frame which is called the frame top. The name is frame top. Now, the highlighted blue portion is this entire frame with with the name of frame top. Now, within this frame, there are three frames. The first frame is the frame left, so this is the one. Then on the same level, there is a frame middle, and then on the same level, there is a frame right. Now, in order to interact with any element inside this frame with Selenium, it is important that we need to switch to this frame first, and then we should be able to access its HTML DOM. If we are unable to switch to this frame, we will not be able to interact with any of these elements. So these are the three frames inside the main frame frame top. Now, once the frame top is collapsed, we see that there is another frame called the frame bottom, which is this one. So in total, there are five frames on the screen. The frame top holds three child frames, and now other than that, if I come out of this frame top into the default content, uh, then we have a frame which is called a frame bottom. Okay, so now we will see using CITS how we can easily switch between these frames and interact with these. S- So firstly, in CITS, we are going to create a new scenario. We're going to call it frames, and then test case underneath. I'm going to call it TC1, and then we're going to try to you know spy and add the objects. But before that, we're going to open the browser, and we're going to ensure that we are opening up um, this web page. So yeah, this is a standard step, and now we're going to try to spy. So I'm going to open up object spy, and then we're going to spy uh, these four elements and see how CITS accepts them, or how CITS identifies them. So if I open up the spy from the extension, now this is the left frame. Um, so highlighted in blue, I'm going to press Control right click. So left is added to the object repository. Now middle, Control right click. Now right, Control right click, and bottom, Control right click. Okay, so all the elements are essentially added to my object repository. Now, what CITS does is when it encounters an element which is inside a frame, it also captures the frame details in this text box. So if you see, the object left is basically inside the frame left, which is an additional information that it captures at the time of spying or recording, um, which is available in the object repository. And that's very, very handy, very, very important, because then you do not have to all the time right click and inspect, and always you do not have to go and find out, hey, what is the name of the frame that I'm working with. So here the name of the frame is frame bottom, and this one is frame top. Now inside frame top, as I was explaining a little while ago, you have a frame set, and then inside a frame set you have three frames, right? So frame left, frame middle, and frame right. And if you go to CITS, it says for left the frame that is captured is frame left, for middle it is frame middle, and for right it is frame right. So it is already capturing the information which is very, very important for us. Okay, so now what we will do is we will simply add these objects to the test case, um, and we are going to highlight these elements. Yeah, so highlight, 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 highlight. I'm going to add a dummy step at the end so that I can use this to add a breakpoint and run this in a debug mode. Um, so, um, so if I look at this test case, what it will do is it will open up the browser. Then for the left object, it will switch to the frame left automatically because it is captured within frame left. And then it would try to move on to the next elements. Now there is a slight problem with that, because if we have noticed carefully, the left, middle, and right are in total inside the frame top frame, right? So first we have to tell the tool that we need to switch to frame top, and only then we will be able to switch to frame left or frame middle or frame right. Okay, so as of now, what I will do is I will not interact with left, middle, and right. I will directly interact with the bottom frame, because this one is not inside any parent frame, right? So we should see that this bottom element, where we just need to switch to frame bottom, we are not writing any switch to action. The control should directly go to the bottom frame, and we should be able to identify the bottom element, right? So if I do a breakpoint here and then try to run this, yeah, you see that the browser is opened. Then the next step is, yeah, highlighting the bottom frame. The bottom element is highlighted, and it works. So the switching to this frame is directly working, because at the time of spying, um, the tool was able to properly capture the name of the frame. Okay, so that's already one step ahead. Uh, Now, for these elements, we would be able to perform some actions to make them work as well. Um, so the first thing that we would do is, in the left, for the left object, there is a frame name called frame left that is available here. So what we can do is we can add a couple of lines in, on top of this. We can say browser, we can say uh, switch to frame, and here we can switch to frame by name or ID, or switch to frame by index. So if it is the first frame or the second frame or the third frame, we can also use index to switch. So here we already know the name of the frame that we need to switch to. So the name of the frame in this case is uh, frame top. Okay, that is the frame that we need to switch to first. So I'm going to copy the name, and I'm going to say switch to frame by name, so frame top, and then I want a switch to frame by name again, and I'm going to use the name as frame left. Okay, so frame left. So like this. So first we switch to frame top, and then we switch to frame left. Okay. If we have already inserted switch to frame here, then we do not need to mention the name of the frame in the object repository also. So we can remove this from the object repository. Otherwise, the tool will try to also first switch to the default content, and then would try to switch to this frame because it is there in the object repository. But because we are handling it directly here, we don't have to uh, mention it in the frame section of the object repository. Okay, now I'm going to uncomment this left element, and now I'm going to run this and see how this behaves. So I'm going to open up the console. So the URL is opened. Then the next step is it has switched to the frame top. Then it has switched to the frame left. Very good. And then it is highlighting the left element, which is uh, which is exactly what we were expecting. And then we still have middle and right as commented out. So we are going to go to bottom, and then uh, that is also highlighted, and then we're going to finish the test case. Okay, pretty cool. So we removed the frame name from this object or element, and we added switch to frame here just before this element. Okay, now we need to see how we are going to handle middle and right. Okay, now two things to note here. When we are in the left element itself, that means when we are in the left frame left, then in order to go to the middle frame, we have two options. Either we go back to the parent frame, which is frame top, or we go back to the default content and then come down again from frame top. So we can do it in this way. So we can say browser, and then we can say switch to default content. So you're not writing any code here. We're just going to say switch to default content, which is a built-in function. Then we are going to say browser switch to frame top. And then we're going to say browser switch to frame. And now this time the name is going to be frame middle, because we need to switch to the middle frame middle. Okay, and then we are going to um, highlight the middle element, and this time the middle should be highlighted, and we're going to do something similar for the right as well. So the first thing would be going back to the default content, then switching to the frame by the name of frame top, and then instead of frame middle, this time it's going to be frame right. But please bear in mind, if we are switching to frame from the step, then we need to remove the frame name from the object repository. Otherwise, it will try to switch here also and here also. So this is what we are going to do. Um, so now if we run this, what do we see? The browser is opened. Uh, we switch to the frame top, then we switch to frame left, and then the element left is highlighted. Then we go to the default content, which is outside all the frames. We switch to the frame top, we switch to the frame middle, and then uh, the element middle is highlighted, which is very good. Then we go back to the default content, then frame top again, frame right this time, and then right is highlighted. Very good. And then finally frame bottom is highlighted. Here we do not have to switch to the default content because we have not removed the frame name from the object repository. Like here in the bottom, we have not removed the frame name from the object repository. So it switches to the default content and selects the element bottom. Okay, so this is how we are able to switch between frames, go back to default content, and then switch to any frame by name, by index in CITS. That's all for this video. See you all in the next video.